Greetings, ladies and gentlefish. Subscriber replay time again, and we're going to have a couple of games today in tanks I don't think I have shown before. Both of these are courtesy of Doug DeMuro, who we have actually seen before. This is the artist formerly known as Lil Nas, and who originally went by the name of Polestar, so I'm going to refer to him as Polestar because otherwise I'm going to get myself painfully confused. Right, with that out of the way, this is a tier 6 maximum game. We've got tier 6s, we've got tier 5s, no tier 4s to worry about, and Polestar here is, ooh, nice shot there, in the relatively new tier 6, I believe this is French medium tank, the M4A1 FL10. So this is essentially an M4 Sherman chassis with a French light tank turret whacked on top and a 75mm auto-loading gun poking out the front with 135 average damage and 148 penetration. That pen goes up to 186 if you fire the premium armor-piercing ammunition that this thing gets. By the accounts I've heard, this is actually a fairly well-regarded, I think, little autoloader. It's a bit sluggish because you're a fancy Sherman at the end of the day, but people do seem to say that the gun's quite nice to use, so I'm kind of reminded a little bit of the Swedish tier 6 premium, the Stridsvagn, can't remember the exact designation. Yeah, kind of reminiscent of that. Anyway, for anyone who's a little bit confused, we're here on the Wide Park map, which the reason for that confusion might be you don't see this map very often. It is limited to the mid-tiers. You don't see it at low tiers, you don't see it at high tiers. In fact, I believe the maximum tier you get this map at is tier 6. Bit of an odd one. It's quite small, as you can see, hence the limit, I suppose, but for it being limited such that low tiers can't meet it, it's kind of an interesting restriction, I suppose. It's the only map with this sort of exact restriction. It's a little bit odd, but there we go. It is what it is. So some people, when they see this map, get a little bit, what the hell's that? Is this new? No, it's not new, it's just you don't see it very often. Goodbye KV1. And you can just see that Polestar here is auto-loading all over people's faces. One more shot into the KV1 and that was 4 kills in pretty quick succession. Well, I think that was 3 kills from that magazine alone. Scoreline is 7-4. So the friendly team are winning, though we don't know exactly by how much. This is a patch 1.11 replay, so we don't have the team hit point bars going on or anything like that. Having a look at what we've got available, it seems the enemy team have taken a bit of a pasting over on this flank, and this is definitely where the friendly team has most of their strength. However, over on the opposite flank, I think it's the friendly team who have kind of been on the receiving end. So, whilst the friendly team is winning here, it's not by enough. Oh, there we go, one hit. Blind shot? Yeah, worth a go. It's not by enough for this match to be secure, even though they do pick up another kill there. Scoreline is 8-5, but that's the sort of thing that could very easily turn around, especially when, brown trouser moment, there's an OI just round the corner. Those things, tier 6 maximum game, don't blame Polestar here for loading the APCR in. No, not APCR, premium AP in the slightest. Those things pack very formidable frontal armour, complete, to be accompanied by a choice of nasty guns, either of course a 150mm howitzer that has "I'm a fake KV2" written all over it, or alternatively, we'll work over his side armour, or alternatively, even the, is it a 100mm gun that this thing can have with, or that thing can have with 300 alpha damage. Either way, that's pretty nasty. The guy's looking the other way, so when Polestar's reloaded, that looks like a very tasty prospect. He's fired. Sounds like he was using the big gun, but I could be wrong, and, well, he's dead, and the friendly OI actually picks up the kill. 2 rounds left in the mag. There's a couple of tanks that were last spotted down in this corner. There's the Hummel that Polestar put a couple of shots into earlier on, and there's a Hell Kitty. Takes a shot from the Hell Kitty, but 2 shots into him. Reloading the mag. Given what's on the enemy team, I would just be loading regular AP here. And you can see that Polestar has the same thought, but he'd already started loading the premium AP mag, so he's just going to finish loading this magazine and then switch back, essentially. Take out the Hellcat there. Very weak frontal armor on that thing, so... Oh, a costly miss there. It means that the friendly OI actually picks up the kill. More on that later. And Polestar's now ammo racked. That was a little bit unfortunate, but with that happening, it does mean the enemy team at this point are basically broken. There's only 2 of them remaining, a VK 3001H and an AMX ELCBIS. Can Polestar pick up either of these? That would be quite nice. Loading this magazine is rather painful given his ammo rack situation. The OI picks up the VK, that just leaves this sneaky little French tank. And Polestar sends a quick platoon invite to the OI there. Come on, kill him. There we go. And the platoon invite is accepted, which, a little bit of quick mental maths, should mean some interesting things with regard to medals at the end. There we go. That was the game for you. A fairly nice game there, and I think shows off what this tank is capable of, but also its limitations. Don't expect much in the way of armour, and you're kind of sluggish because you're still based on a Sherman at the end of the day. And certainly the tier 5 Sherman is not the fastest tank in the world. I mean, none of the Shermans are that fast, to be fair. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the post-game stats for this one. So, there we go. That ended up being enough for First Class Mastery, Bruiser, Duelist, Fire for Effect, a Top Gun, and then there's a couple of other medals floating around there. So, we've got a crucial contribution there, awarded to a platoon which destroyed at least 12 enemy vehicles in one battle. Each platoon participant received this title, and of course, a Brothers in Arms, for each platoon member picking up at least 3 kills and surviving. So that was quite a nice result there for Polestar in the end. 25 bonds as well thrown in for good measure for, I don't know, completing some missions or something, I assume. Finished at the top of his team by experience, not quite at the top by damage. That award goes to his kind of his on-the-fly platoon mate there. Partisan 59 in his OI. Polestar managed 2,192 damage. His platoon mate there managed 2,193 damage. Pipping him to the post for what I believe would have been a high caliber award. Probably, yes, there's a high caliber in there. Well done to Partisan 59 in his OI there. A good game from him and a good game from Polestar. Polestar finished top by experience, though, and I doubt he's particularly complaining about the result from that game. Very much a case where the top tier tanks on the friendly team were carrying harder than the top tier tanks on the enemy team. Commiserations, however, should go to the enemy OI. 1,500 damage and 3 kills wasn't quite enough there. And the enemy VK, 1,400 damage and 3 kills from him. Not top tier, still not enough to pull their team over the winning line. So, unlucky. 29 shots fired, 21 hits, 20 penetrations. For that damage count. Most of that damage was from pretty close range. Wide Park is not a big map, that shouldn't come as a huge surprise. 4 hits received, 2 penned, 1 did not, and 1 was some HE. 240 damage blocked by Polestar's armour there. 2 enemy vehicles spotted, 9 damage, 6 destroyed, 59 assistance damage, 1.83 kilometers travelled, and unfortunately Polestar did make a small loss. Even though he wasn't spamming gold ammo everywhere like it's going out of fashion. There was 1 gold magazine that ended up being completely unnecessary. But essentially at that point he was already loading the magazine and didn't want to waste the extra time changing to regular AP. But, all the same, the gold ammo he did use was intelligently used to deal with a very heavily armoured enemy, well, heavy tank. Anyway, quite a nice result from Polestar there, and the M4 there looks like quite a fun tank, to be fair. Though, if it is quite similar to the Swedish variant, the mediocre gun depression is going to get quite frustrating. Anyway, let's move on to another game. Second game here then, and we're still with Polestar. This time, however, he's driving the Tier 9 German reward tank, the T-55A. This, of course, being the 3rd reward tank from the first campaign set of personal missions. And before anyone looks at it and goes, what do you mean German? It's clearly Soviet. You have to remember that after the Second World War, during the Cold War, Germany was, of course, divided into East and West. And while the West German army used rather Western style equipment, and the Leopard has a decidedly Western main battle tank feel to it, for example, the East German army used essentially Soviet equipment. And so the T-55A here is representing the East German army, and hence is a German machine despite its obviously Soviet origins. I don't think shown this tank before. If I have, it's a very long time ago, and it seems appropriate to have a little bit of a revisit of the thing. It's very, very similar to the Tier 9 Soviet medium tank, the T-54. You've got pretty mediocre penetration for a Tier 9 medium tank at... it's actually been increased. It used to be around 200, it's now up to 221, which is entirely usable. Your heat rounds still pack a punch with 330 penetration, but this is not the cheapest tank to run. Even your standard rounds, given that they only do 320 damage per shot, are relatively expensive. I believe they're over 1,000 credits each. And your premium ammunition, which is very good and tempts a lot of people to dab that 2 key, is obviously very expensive, although given that they've bumped up the penetration of the gold rounds, I believe, on this tank, sorry, not the gold rounds, the standard rounds on this tank, hopefully that means it's not quite as expensive to run as it used to be. As you can see here, you've got a little bit of frontal armour to work with as well, kind of like the T-54. Although I believe the T-55A technically gets a weaker hull than the T-54, and the compensation for that is that your gun tends to be better performing. Anyway, with all that out the way, what are we looking at? Well, this is a game on Abbey. This is another quite small map, and one that kind of funnels people into choke points. It's sort of an old school corridor map. This used to be my least favourite map in the game. These days it's not, but that says less about this map and more about some other maps that have been introduced to the game. So, this is not the best map for your stereotypical medium tank. You're not going to be doing that much in the way of flanking. However, oh, that was a bad shot, Polestar. Unusual to see you flub shots like that. At least, to be fair, Polestar's top tier here, so he can be a little bit of a bully. And being in a tank with a spot of armour, again, he can be a bit of a bully. Anyway, as you can see here, his team has not necessarily gotten off to the best start. Scoreline is 3-6, and they have just punched straight through the middle. His team have committed some tanks, including Polestar, to the 1 and 2 line here, but they have not broken through yet. And whilst it looks like they probably would have been winning the 8 and 9 lines, the friendly team decide that they probably need to do something about the guys swarming all over their base, which is fair enough, and the scoreline is actually levelled up to 5-6. Polestar himself coming back to help defend things, but it looks like his efforts might be a little bit in vain, and perhaps he's not needed over here, and we've all been in situations like that. You end up choosing between, well, do I go back and defend base or do I not? And you know how it works. It's Murphy's Law. If you don't defend base, your team will just collapse and you'll lose. But if you do go back to defend the base, well, your team will end up being competent and you won't be needed. Polestar does manage to pick up a kill, however, on that IS-6, so at least coming back here wasn't entirely in vain. Slightly worryingly, friendly tanks do appear to be vanishing at an alarming rate, and this is kind of awkward. Anybody who's right in the vicinity of the friendly base, woo, a little bit of acrobatics there, is going to have some problems because the enemy team control the titular Abbey. Last spotted over there, we've got an EBR Hotchkiss, the Tier 7, I think that is, French wheeled light tank, and the very dangerous Burlesque. Sorry, Burasque. No, I'm going to go with Burlesque. That Tier 8 French medium tank that, if we're being honest, is actually the best Tier 8 light tank in the game. Go figure. Quick kill there on the EBR. And I'm a little bit curious, I'll be honest, I don't understand Polestar's ammunition choice here. He switched to heat ammo. Now, I'm not entirely sure who Polestar is expecting to see over here that's going to require heat ammo. The last ones spotted over here were light and medium tanks, and all heat's going to do in that situation is potentially get eaten by tracks and spaced armour and whatnot. So I question his choice of ammunition here. All the same, He's managed to pick up those 2 kills from the middle, which evens the game up a little bit. Scorelines are now 10-11 in favour of the enemy team, and of course, as soon as I open my big fat mouth, the AE Phase 1 picks up another one, taking out the friendly Progetto 46. Now, the AE Phase 1 has taken a bit of a battering here, and has less health than the friendly heavy tank opposing him. Unfortunately, that friendly heavy tank is 2 tiers below, and is probably going to need a little bit of help. Now, loading heat ammunition for the E75 makes a considerable degree of sense, however, doesn't necessarily guarantee things, and given the E75 is giving Polestar shots at his side here, you could argue the heat is not needed. Against the lower front plate, sure, fine. There we go, finally. Kind of surprised there that Polestar didn't get spotted, given that he moved after firing, which of course will do bad things to his camo rating. Shot there on the side of the T30, but no dice, and it's entirely possible there that AP would have been better into the side of that tank, because T30 sides are covered in tracks, which act as spaced armour, which heat sucks against. AE Phase 1, nice shot through the front of him there. And if he can put another shot there, that will pick up the kill on the AE Phase 1, like that, very nicely done, and that puts Polestar in a good position. Unfortunately, this position is not arty safe. I just want to highlight that. And so I think you could make a case that Polestar could head back to, or head over to the enemy base and deal with the artillery. It's tricky. If you do that, then you lose vision and pressure on the T30 and the E75, although he's not spotting those guys at the moment. Anyway. Side shots on the T30, I would be loading AP at this point for exactly that reason. And as it is, well, that's unlucky. Polestar actually gets a little bit shafted there, despite the fact that he was using a wreck for cover, or had been using a wreck for cover. He was in front of the wreck at the time. The T30 gets a shot into Polestar and actually detonates his ammo rack, and that, I'm afraid, brings this game to a rather sudden and somewhat disappointing end. That was a potential Kolobanov's medal right there. This could have been a very nice game, but I wanted to show this game anyway, because one, haven't shown the T55A in a while, and two, I'm pretty sure we've all had those situations, that sort of what could have been moment. I am going to be slightly critical here and just point out 1 or 2 things I think Polestar could have done differently to perhaps give him a marginal advantage. One, just a question, given that one is not spotting the T30 and the E75 anyway, I wonder if Polestar's time could have been better spent going over to the enemy base and dealing with the artillery first. So, just a thought. Secondly, ammunition choice. Polestar clearly made a conscious decision at some point in that replay to switch to heat ammo. Unfortunately, heat ammo is not without its problems. The T30 was giving Polestar side shots there, and had the first shot against the T30 actually hit and penetrated, that would have killed him. So, that could have kept Polestar alive there at the end. It's a difficult one. Nonetheless, at the end there, it is pretty obvious Polestar got unlucky, as he could have expected to take 700, 800 damage from the T30 if he'd penned, but actually the T30 blew his ammo rack and he took 1500. That's unlucky. Had he been able, or had he not taken that much damage, the T30 only had 1 shot left in him. Polestar could have picked that up. The E75 would have taken a couple of shots, but Polestar, if he hadn't been ammo-racked, could have taken a shot from the E75, and that would have just left the artillery. So that was very much a winnable game had the T30 not got hideously unlucky. And it's easy to get frustrated in situations like that, but I think all you can do is just go, right, I gave it a good go, I got unlucky. Is there anything I could have done differently to try, in a similar situation in the future, to weigh things in my favour? And that's where I'd say AP for the side of that T30. Better chance of taking the T30 out, which meant you may not have even taken the shot from the T30, essentially. Nonetheless, it's understandable to have the heat loaded for the E75, for example. But yeah, I would have made more use of AP, but that's a relatively small complaint. Polestar undoubtedly got unlucky there. Anyway, despite that, let's have a look at the post-game stats. So obviously a loss there, unfortunately. Still, Bruiser, Duelist, Fighter, and Fire for Effect for Polestar there. He still had a good game, and he still did the best on his team, both in terms of experience, damage, and kills, so however you look at it. That ended up being a pretty good result for him there. The Object 704, 2.8k damage and 3 kills. Well done to him. Well done to the Progetto, 2,500 damage from him. Not top tier. You know, it's just one of those games where stuff goes wrong. On the enemy team, shout out to the E75 there and the AE Phase 1. Their tier 9s just had a better impact than the friendly tier 9s as a general rule of thumb. T30 did well, but you have to bear in mind of that damage count, his 3,500 damage, he was only up to about 2,000 damage at the time when he ammo-racked Polestar at the end. So, whilst he'd still been having an alright game up to that point, you do have to bear in mind that the damage count there, whilst obviously not like false, if you will, a lot of that is because of the ammo rack on Polestar toward the end there. But well done to the enemy team. Overall, they just played a better game. And that's really all there is to say about it. 18 shots fired, 15 hits, 12 penetrations for that damage count. About half of it was from longer range. 7 hits received, 2 penned, 4 did not. So 520 damage blocked by Polestar's armor. 1 enemy vehicle spotted, 8 damaged, 4 destroyed, about 400 assistance damage. And you can see there, this is not going to be the cheapest tank in the world to run, especially if you do use a few of those heat rounds. When the situation you think requires, but even if you're not using those heat rounds, the base ammunition cost on this tank is kinda high, and the amount of damage you do per shot isn't, so something worth bearing in mind. Anyway, couple of games for you there. Thank you, Polestar, for sending them over to me. It was a pleasure to feature them, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching them. Commiseration should go, I think, in that second game there. Bit of bad luck toward the end, but these things happen, and I still wanted to show that sort of what could have been game. Anyway, as ever, I will wish you guys very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.